let's get into Brock Purdy. It was his first real test. He was losing, down 10, threw a bad pick, but actually you could argue it was his most impressive game. I mean, it wasn't his best game, but you could argue it was his most impressive game in the sense that he faced adversity. He was losing. I think he was losing for the first time since becoming a starter. And despite having, I mean, he had a bunch of bad plays. I can go through them. But he was clutch. In the fourth quarter, in overtime, some of those throws to Ayuk on slants were dimes. He threw dimes under pressure with not just physical pressure, but mental pressure too, given where they were at in the game. So I was actually really impressed from Brock Purdy. I think this is important. It felt like a playoff game. The intensity was up there. It went back and forth. If the Niners are going to win a Super Bowl, they're going to have to win games like this in the playoffs. They're not just going to run through playoff teams. And now Purdy's shown that he can face a little bit of adversity, not play his best, shake it off, and finish strong. I mean, you could say, like, I don't think his quarterback rating was that high. It was like 90-something, and he threw a pick. But he also threw 2 touchdown passes for his 5th consecutive game. One of my issues with Jimmy was, despite the fact that he was accurate, he had a high completion percentage, his yards looked good, a lot of his efficiency looked good, he just didn't score a lot of touchdowns. And the offense with him on the field, unless the running game was just utterly dominant, didn't score a ton of points, as much as it should with the talent it has. Now, with Brock Purdy, like, this was not his best game, and they scored 37. It just seems like he's passing these tests. He's so clearly making the offense so much better. And it's like, what is the Purdy effect? Well, who was the MVP of this game? Not Brock Purdy. It was Christian McCaffrey. He went for 193 yards and a touchdown. I mean, he was just freaking dominant. But what's interesting about him, a lot of people feel the Niners' season turned when they got him. And they haven't lost since he's been in the starting lineup full time. But their offense turned when Brock Purdy became the quarterback. And I think you could see it in McCaffrey. When McCaffrey was playing with Jimmy Garoppolo, McCaffrey had some really forgettable games where he had like 30-something rushing yards, and he only averaged 4.2 yards per carry, which is really low. I mean, he was doing better than that in freaking Carolina. It's below the league average, which is 4.5. Since Purdy's been here, McCaffrey's averaging 5.1 yards per carry, and that's because Purdy does play action, moves, throws the ball down the field. There's more field to defend, and now there's more room for the running back. So that's the Purdy effect. It was interesting to see the Purdy test and to see how he responded. Now, what were his mistakes? The interception was bad. He underthrew it. And that's what made me feel iffy on him in training camp. Those long throws over the middle, that's when he gets intercepted. They float. And today he said he didn't see the defender who picked it off. He thought he had a layup and all he had to do was, put it on George. No, you underthrew it. You had to throw it farther. He's good on the throws outside the numbers if it's one-on-one. But the throws deep over the middle, that happened to him in training camp a lot, those interceptions by safeties. So that's something I want to see. And what's interesting about that one pick was I felt like that was a throw that Trey Lance would make. So I'm curious to see. Brock Purdy hasn't wrapped up this quarterback competition yet. Doing a really good job, though. There were other things. I mean, there was one where he forced a pass to George Kittle at the goal line. He was double covered. The Raiders defender dropped the pass, and Ray McLeod, I don't know why I can't say his name. I gotta go slower. Ray McLeod was wide open in the end zone. There was another play where I think it was 2nd and 5. Brock Purdy checked it down to Christian McCaffrey. George Kittle was open deep. So these are the kind of things we didn't see from Brock Purdy earlier on. I mean, his first few starts. We see it from Jimmy. So we saw those mistakes from Brock Purdy. They still scored 37 points. And the Brock Purdy effect allowed Christian McCaffrey to take over in ways that he wasn't going to take over against, teams like this with Jimmy at quarterback. And I think it's interesting. Just the Raiders are better than I thought. They're kind of like the Niners that first year that Kyle was here in the sense that they are in one-score games constantly. And it looks like Jared Stidham's good. It looks like they just found their quarterback, at least for next year. I mean, he's better than Derek Carr. Offense looked a lot better with him. And what's interesting about the Raiders is they have real playoff caliber weapons. So that was a good test for the defense. We're going to talk about the defense in a second.